Welcome to episode 6 of Tunnelz. In this episode, we're going to do the walk. We are walking the entire Greenwich line, all the way from Bermondsey Chambers Wharf, all the way to Greenwich. A 3.5 mile walk. So on this walk, we're going to be calling at Surrey Quays, Deptford and Greenwich. While Tunnelz under construction, it's actually effectively a metro system. It's actually got trains on it that actually have to be tightly timed going through a passing place to get stuff to and from the tunnel boy machine. This tunnel is fascinating to explore. So, let's continue where episode 5 left off, which is from the tunnel boy machine.
Oh, it's a train in there this time. That wasn't there last time. Yeah, train.
So here is the back of the tunnel boy machine. And here is the tunnel that it's just dug. That tunnel looks very inviting to explore. So let's go and walk the entire length of it. Let's go. So we start walking a tunnel, and interestingly, the tunnel is not straight. Despite the fact this is 45 metres deep, and the reason why it's so deep is to get underneath all of the foundations of London. But not just the foundations. At the bottom of the foundations, when they make buildings, they drill down concrete piles into the ground to support the foundations. And those go deep. So you have to go down a very deep depth when doing a tunnel to make sure you don't crash into any of those foundation piles. So considering this tunnel is very deep and it's at the right depth, you would have thought it'd now be able to go straight to where it's going, yet it's going around this massive bend. In fact, it's actually quite a long way to walk to the next stop, Surrey Quays, simply because of how bendy the tunnel is. So walk along the tunnel to the first oxygen metering and telephone station. You get these every 400 metres or quarter of a mile, and here you've got the oxygen meter, it beeps every 30 seconds, you've also got the telephone. And looking at the sheet of paper showing all the numbers you can phone up, it shows you all of the features of the tunnel. So we carry on walking and the tunnel is still curving round to the left. In fact, the first 800 metres or half a mile, the tunnel is curving the entire time. Then the tunnel goes straight. At this point, the tunnel has gone quite a wrong direction from Surrey Quays. So after a straight section, it then has to curve back the other way for quite a long distance to get the tunnel back on track to where it's going. I'm not sure why this tunnel is so long and bendy. Like I said, it's so deep, it should just be able to go straight under the foundations of all the buildings at this depth. So we keep walking along to another oxygen metering station. Let's take a look at the data this oxygen metering station has shown. It shows you not just oxygen, but it gives out 4 different readings to do with the air quality of the tunnel. It shows us methane, oxygen, carbon monoxide and hydrogen sulfide. And you can take a look at the history of all these different recordings. And taking a look at it, you can see the levels have stayed relatively similar and well within safe, so this tunnel is properly ventilated. This also shows you how much rigorous safety there is in building modern day tunnels. Very different to how tunnels were built in the past.
It's been fairly consistent on the max min. Calm down, so that must go up when a train goes past. When a train goes past, that must go up.
So we keep on walking, and it is an incredibly long walk. As we're walking, we're thinking we must be at Surrey Quays by now. This here is a transformer. Every kilometre or so, there's one of these transformers to run the various electrical equipment in the tunnel, such as the lights, slurry pumps and oxygen meters. The voltage of the tunnel is 3,300 volts, but this is just the distribution voltage. The reason why it's so high is because of how far the tunnel boy machine travels, and they don't want to have voltage drop when trying to power it. But to run all of the equipment, the voltage has to be reduced to 110 volts building site voltage. And now we come along to the first stop of the Greenwich line, which is Surrey Quays. Here we've got a nice big fan blowing the air through. Interestingly, on the Greenwich line, it doesn't have the yellow pipe. Maybe it's because this tunnel's shorter than the other ones, only being 3.5 miles. On the other tunnels, there's a big yellow pipe that blows the air to a tunnel boring machine, then the air returning back from a tunnel boring machine is what keeps the tunnel ventilated. This tunnel doesn't have this. Maybe I felt I didn't need as much airflow in this tunnel to keep it properly ventilated. So then, here we are at our first stop, Surrey Quays. Let's take a look around. Now there is security at ground level at this stop, but hey, security can't exactly come down and get to us because there's no stairs here. I do find it weird that this is a major point of it, because this is where sewage flows in from the sewers at the pumping station here, and there's no steps down. It must make it harder for workers how little access points there is into this tunnel. And from down here at tideway tunnel level, you get some very stunning views of the shaft at Surrey Quays. So we keep going, and along we go to the passing place. We are now halfway. Just like on the Abbey line, the passing places are on wheels. In fact, the passing places are actually trains of their own right, meaning they can easily move the passing place if they wanted to change the position of where the trains pass. It's a junction, but it sits on top of the actual tracks. So they can move where the passing place junction is. So if they ever want to move this junction to a different place where the passing place is, they can easily move it at any point they want. So then, we now continue beyond the passing place, continuing up the Greenwich line. Just a warning light, I think. Got a junction coming up for passing place. The next stop is Deptford. Let's go! And after quite a long walk, we then arrive at some scaffolding. We saw something similar to this on the Abbey line. This here actually has a signal on it so the people on the platform can tell the trains when they can and can't pass through it. There must be some problem with the tunnel here and they're having to do some extra repair work to it. Let's take a look. What's in this? So we continue along the Greenwich line. And along we go to, we weren't expecting to see any more trains until we'd reached Greenwich. Turns out they're actually taking up the tracks at Greenwich, so they've had to move some of their trains down a bit, and these are the trains most likely being used to lift the tracks up. Considering a tunnel boring machine has completed its journey from Greenwich to Bermondsey, and they're now on the secondary lining stage, so all of these trains are now being taken out. We're literally exploring this tunnel at just the right moment, because once they put in the secondary lining, to be honest, it's going to look like quite a plain sewer tunnel. It's the construction of the tunnel, which is the part that's interesting to explore. This literally is the last chance to see this tunnel where it's still in its interesting construction phase. Let's now take a look at the trains that are parked up here. This train's left in a strange place. It's not even near a station and it's just been left here. A very strange place for this train. Here you have another train. So this is inside your train. This train's actually really bad condition compared to the others. How comfy is it to sit on the train and go for a ride? Fairly comfy actually. I'd love it if it was like a metro system that used these trains. Just think how cool that'd be, travelling in an actual metro system on this rackety little thing. That'd be so fun. So coming up, we've got another scaffold train. We still haven't got to the next station yet. Weird. This whole tunnel's weird. Interestingly, this particular scaffold train has a red signal rather than a green signal. Why is that, I wonder? There's another train here, and here's the station. And now we go to another parked up train. This one is a cherry picker train. Got another train. A lot of trains scattered about all over this. So here you got another train, looks like this. Interestingly, here there's no water running down the middle. You've got your cherry picker train thing. Here we've got this train here. And just beyond this cherry picker train there is the next stop, which is Deptford. Let's take a look around this Deptford shaft. Welcome to Deptford Station.
This looks very similar, almost identical to the Surrey Quays station. Now maybe very slightly different. Oh my, I got a cherry picker there.
Let's try out the cherry picker.
There's your sewer there. Here's your machine.
That was very noisy. I wonder if security at top of the shaft would have heard it. But even if they did hear it, what can security do? They can't actually come down here and catch us. So, that's Deptford stop. We now continue walking to the last and final stop, which is Greenwich. In fact, Greenwich was actually only a short walk beyond Deptford. It was only about 500 metres. And along we go to the end of the line. The train tracks stop here. They've got this porter cabin thing on a platform. This is where they're taking up the tracks and removing them for the inner lining machine.
There we've got this little porter cabin. Loads of pipes and stuff. Another little porter cabin. Actually, we couldn't get a train over that. Look at that. Yeah, we wouldn't get a train over that part. They're actually taking apart the tracks here. The tracks have been taken apart.
And now get to the very end of the tracks. There's no more tracks to be seen from this point onwards. And along we go to the inner lining machine. In fact, there's two inner lining machines on this. These two lining machines have just been delivered and are getting ready to start their journey along the entire tunnel to Bermondsey. So let's take a look inside the first one of the two lining machines. This machine here is where they pour the concrete to make the inner lining.
How you do the secondary lining up there.
So we continue along the tunnel to a piece of the inner lining. This looks like a test piece where they're testing the machines work properly and also training the staff on how to use it.
It's a secondary liner. Look, they put on a secondary lining. This is what the sewer will look like when it's finished. This is your second lining going into it. This here is your secondary lining. That's your secondary lining here.
And just beyond this test section of inner lining, there is a second inner lining machine, and here is Greenwich shaft. We have reached the end of the Greenwich line. We walked the entire thing. This second inner lining machine must have just been delivered. It's literally just been lowered down the shaft by the crane. And is also about to make its journey the whole way to Bermondsey. Let's take a look at it. then we now decide to leave Tideway from the Greenwich site. This is a bit risky since none of us have really checked out this site at all. We've got no idea what's at the top of the shaft. Security could be waiting for us. Let's start our ascent up the shaft at Greenwich Tideway. Here is the main shed at the top of the shaft. Let's take a look around.